What does the system need to do better? What could they have done for you in that home?
Some of them knew how to calm me down. Some of them would give me a hug. Or the ones that are trying to restrain you, that's just going to cause a scrap.
And what's the better method, do you think?
I think the loving. Yeah, the hug. Yeah, the loving.
I'm Daniel Lavelle, a Guardian journalist and author from Manchester.
Thanks very much, Joe. Cheers, mate.
I spent my teens in care, and as a kid I was restrained by the people who were supposed to be looking after me.
You'd have a staff member in that chair, another staff member in there, and they'd push you down.
And arrested for things that would earn most kids a grounding.
I once got arrested for throwing a cup across the room in that living room.
I've lost count of the amount of times I was arrested for stupid things.
After I left the system, I experienced poverty, housing insecurity and homelessness. For a long time I felt I deserved my lot, until I discovered that so many of my fellow care leavers suffered similar outcomes.
I was in an institution where the people who were supposed to care for me were more concerned with blaming me.
People like me don't usually get to present Guardian videos, so I want to use my platform to examine how the system failed me.
Do you think you've left the system better than you found it?
No.
Do you feel valued?
No.
And how things have changed for kids today.
I mean, how many times has this been in the news? About failings by this, failings by that. Nothing's changed.
So this is the unit.
Brings back some memories. The bars are still on the windows though, Danny.
The bar?
Yeah.
That was mine.
It's Danny's bedroom.
I first met Lucy, whose name we've changed, when I was 14 and we were placed together in a children's home.
If you ask Danny what he used to do to this tree when he was a kid.
What are you talking about? What are you on about? Nah, it's all fake news, this part, so I may as well not even talk about it. Allegedly, I used to do kung fu on it.
He was quite funny when he was a kid. I don't think Danny should ever have been in a home personally.
Oh, well, no one should they? And we got lifted for the silliest reasons. Like, I once got arrested for throwing a cup across the room in that living room.
I've lost count of the amount of times I was arrested for stupid things. And you're just criminalised from a young age for something that you don't really understand.
We were asked to leave the premises halfway through our trip down memory lane by a rather officious person who angrily threatened to call the police.
Where were we up to before we got
We were talking
thrown out?
about kids being criminalised and, you know, automatically she was going to call the police on us. So it just proves the point, really.
That was her immediate response, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Straight to the phone, the police. Did you see yourself as a criminal when you was a kid because of that?
Yeah. Our answer to everything was, let's phone the police. No, we'd be threatened that we wouldn't get fed in the morning.
Yeah. Or they put you on basics, which is what they say in prison.
Yeah.
You're on basics.
You are treated like a prisoner.
Lucy was one of countless vulnerable children in care exposed to sexual exploitation in Greater Manchester over the years.
What could the staff have done to stop someone like you going out and getting involved with grown men?
Well, first of all, they knew I was already being exploited in this area.
Did they ever make an effort to stop you going out, or when they saw you?
Not really. No,
No.
they would tell me I'd be grounded or we'll
That's
phone the
it.
police. We'll phone the police. We'll report you missing, we'll phone the police. But
But they restrain us if we broke a cup, but if you're going out to see men, that just let you and
Yeah.
said you'd get grounded.
Yeah. 13 when I got pregnant.
And then how long did you have her before she was taken?
3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. The reason they took her off me is because I didn't have no family support, and I think that's really unfair. Everybody said parenting's brilliant because I'd raised my brothers and sisters. So I've never been called a bad mum, and she was never took off me because I was a bad mum.
What was it like on the day that you had to give up? Do you remember?
It's the first time in my life I ever self-harm.
How often did you think about her?
Every day.
In 2019, Lucy sued Oldham Council for negligence and got an out-of-court settlement.
And really what I wanted was an apology and what procedures have you got in place, like what you're going to do differently to protect these kids. I didn't get the apology and I didn't get an explanation. I got a 5-figure sum, which means nothing to me. To me, that's dirty money. That's not the answer to solving these cases. I mean, how many times has this been in the news? About failings by this, failings by that, Nothing's changed.
Lucy and I were in the system 20 years ago. Is it true that nothing has changed?
I went to Blackpool to meet another Danny who was a care leaver, recent care leaver, and talked to him about his experiences and what's life been like for him after he's left.
We caught up with Danny at a soup kitchen where he volunteers.
You got it? Yeah.
It's run by his friend's dad, Mark, who took Danny out of the system and fostered him at 15.
Stuart, pass to me.
A crucial intervention that he said saved his life.
Thank you very much.
No worries, sir. See you later.
When did you go into care?
I went into care about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
So when you were 13?
Yeah.
Same age as me, that
Yeah,
13.
I wasn't the best behaved child as a kid because obviously I had loads of things going in my head. Yeah. I had loads of things on in my head, and I couldn't really express myself in a way without being naughty. As soon as I went into care, that's when I really started to lose my head with my anger, because obviously I thought like no one cared about me, and I was on this on my own sort of thing.
What was that first night like?
It was very strange because I knew it was the start of something else, so I was just trying to think in my head how it was going to go, how care was like in real life.
When I was in the system 20 years ago, the staff there often used the police as a means of discipline,
Yeah.
so I got nicked from like a young age. Were you getting arrested as well?
Yeah, I was getting arrested. It's like when a kid gets angry at home, the parent's not going to call the police because they've smashed a plate or something like that.
Did they restrain you ever?
Yeah, they restrained me, yeah.
Were you ever prone? Like lying face down?
Yeah.
The knee in your back?
The knee in your back, yeah. Some of them knew how to calm me down. Some of them would give me a hug and they'd be like, right, what's up? Or the ones that are using violence with violence, they're getting angry and they're trying to restrain you. That's just going to cause a scrap.
And what's the better method, do you think?
I think the
hug?
loving. Yeah,
The
the
hug.
hug. Yeah, the loving.
So what do the system need to do better? What
They
could
need
they
to-
have done for you in that home?
Maybe not have 12 staff members swapping and changing, because you need to have the same people around, like a mother figure and a father figure, someone that's like caring, and then obviously someone that'll put you in your place, but not in a way where it'll make you feel like shit.
I went to care for the same reason as you, off the fucking wall, fighting, had ADHD, and I blamed myself for a long time, but you were a kid.
Yeah.
It's not your fault, man.
Yeah, that's a good way of seeing it, to be fair, because obviously your mind isn't wired right.
Both Danny and I needed more love and support from the system. But what is it like to be a professional carer?
Hiya, you alright? Hiya. So we're going to see Pete, my former care worker, who's my uncle now, kind of a surrogate uncle. Well, Pete was a lot different from the others because you felt like there was a personal relationship there. He would be aware that you were having a hard time and he'd just take you out. He'd take you out for the day and actually invest his time in you. Hello?
Hi, come on in. Come
Hi,
on.
Pete, you
Good
alright?
to see you.
Nice to see you.
Pete has worked in the care system for nearly 30 years. He helps 16-year-olds in semi-independent accommodation prepare for life on their own.
Take a seat.
Cheers.
I've got some coffee on the go here.
Oh, nice. So, I hesitate to ask you this question, but what were your first impressions of me?
You were great fun. You were always erudite. You like to use big words that were funny.
Even if I didn't understand what they meant.
Well, you like to say them, yeah.
Yeah. Just talking about the system a little bit. So, how have things changed over the years, in your opinion? Have things got better?
Well,
or
because
worse,
I'll tell you why I came to work for Oldham. Oldham had already put its money where its mouth was and had a programme for preparation for independent living and aftercare support when nowhere else in the country had it. And it came up from the 80s right up into the noughties, and then it was stripped back to absolutely nothing really, and it's just cut to the...
Is that since the 2010 when the austerity and everything?
Yeah, a bit earlier than that it started.
Do you think the care system sets people up to fail sometimes?
It may do. It doesn't make any sense that they aren't better prepared for adulthood when they've been in the care of the corporate parent.
Do you worry about some of the kids though, especially when they go off and then everything's cut off? Are you like, because obviously you build like close relationships.
Yeah, of course you
with
do.
people.
But I always say that no matter how grown up you think you are and how much you think you're ready for this, the hardest time ever is when you shut that front door for the first time, and you're on your own. And there was a point at which I came across you in particular in your 20s, and by that time you'd had that period of homelessness, which I was totally unaware of, and I was so angry about that. Because I remember saying to you, why didn't you come and tell me?
I didn't tell anyone. It was humiliating.
Yeah,
for me.
exactly. Of course it was. There's loads of Dannies out there, and Daniellas, but they don't maybe have the skills that you have. No. So their story gets untold. But when you tell your story, they'll identify with it and feel as if they've said it themselves. Yeah. And I think that, so your book is out there, but it's not, it should be on the shelves of every children's home, and it's certainly essential reading for any residential worker.
Pleasure, right. Well, I love you, Pete. Thanks.
Don't divert all the calls to me.
Thanks loads for doing this, by the way.
You're welcome.
So what happens to the other Dannies and Daniellas? Well, the stats aren't great. 1 in 4 of us find ourselves homeless, like I was. I eventually made it into higher education, but care leavers are more likely to end up in a prison cell than a lecture theatre. I wrote about all of this in my book, which I'm now flogging at the Bradford Literature Festival.
I mean, yours is a success story, but as you say in your book, you are an anomaly, that's what you...
Yeah, walking, talking anomaly, yeah. Everyone I know from the system is either dead in prison or they've got awful issues they're dealing with.
What was it like for you kind of revisiting some of those quite painful memories?
It really hit me for 6, especially when I got all my social services records and 10 or 12 thick folders in big bags, like my personal baggage personified in a way. What's your name? John.
Down and Out is the result of 5 years trying to understand my story and others in care.
Hi, are you alright?
I'm a retired social worker.
Oh, are you?
So I'm sure you've
no
got
offence.
lots of...
Some of you are great,
It's like anything, we're a mixture, aren't we? I apologise for things I might not have done, but...
No, don't be daft. What's your name? Julia.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, very welcome.
Very best.
You too, thanks Julia.
Also at the festival is poet and playwright Lem Sissay. Lem also grew up in care and has talked extensively about the impact that reading his care records had on him.
One of the first things that struck me about your book, because I've been reading it, is the trouble you had getting your records. What impact did they have on you? Because they destroyed me, like when I read them.
Yeah, it's quite shocking when you read what people have been saying about you throughout your childhood,
Yeah.
You see yourself being set up. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I didn't recognise a lot of what was being said about me. I mean, I went on happy pills because of it, because I had a panic attack for a week because I didn't see myself like that.
I do see people constantly faced with their files, and they might read half of them and then say, I can't read anymore, and lock them away. I know one woman who burned her files. She never wants to see them again.
I've got the same plan for mine, I think. Either that or the shredder.
I don't think you have to. The record of what happened to you and what people said about you and how they treated you is very important. They are a record that I was alive somewhere and somebody did something to me for reasons which were not fair.
Yeah.
I like to keep that record, thank you very much.
It's like once I was restrained on the way they do it, they do on 3 chairs. So they plonk you in the middle one here. So that's the middle one. You have a staff member in that chair, another staff member there, and then push you down. I remember once I was so frustrated, I spat on the floor and someone wiped it up and wiped it in my face. That's not in the records. But as I chased it up, that's a practice they used to do. They were told that you should do that. You should, if their child spits or...
Honestly...
and that still fucks with me to this day, that.
Yeah, of course it does, yeah. That's hands down abuse.
Do you ever regret that you're maybe giving too much of yourself out there? You're putting too much of yourself out? Because I think, how much do I want to carry on, using myself as a specimen to dissect for everyone?
I mean, I might have agreed with you some time ago and said, yeah, I am doing... But actually the truth is that you do it for you. You know, when you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because this isn't about the audience.
Most people who went through what we went through, they're off the map, or they're dead, or they're in prison, and they can't tell the world what they went through, and they can't relate it in the way, or not just they can't, but maybe they won't. So that's the only reason I'll continue to do it. I don't know if you think the same.
No, I don't really care about anybody else, to be honest. So
Yeah. Awesome. So that's Lem Sisse. Psycho. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would love to say I'm hopeful about the future, but I'm not. The system was bad when I was in it all those years ago, but it's got worse. Lucy, Danny, Lem and I have made it out damaged, but not broken. But we got lucky, and making it through childhood shouldn't just depend on luck. Things need to change, and that's why voices like ours need to continue to be heard.
Obviously, it takes a lot of courage to open up like this. I know why I've done it, but why have you done it?
I wouldn't want what happened to me to happen to someone else. If I can help someone who's in care, any slight way, just to know that at the end of the tunnel it's not all doom and gloom. It's all about staying positive, really. That's the main thing. If you want to stay positive, then you will get far in life.
It took me a long time to get where I need to be. I went through all sorts. I took drugs, drink, partying all the time.
And now you're doing the Open University, law, studying law.
Criminology and law.
Criminology and law. And you're working as a part-time carer as well, aren't you? Looking after the elderly.
Yeah. I mean, I still have a lot of trauma. So every day is a fight for me, but...
Are you winning though?
Do I feel like I'm winning? Sometimes no, but everyone around me tells me I'm winning.
I think you're doing great.
Thanks.
Yeah? Very good.